Elaine and the Treacey family really fought to get the answers as to what had happened to Clive, and their efforts and their focus and their drive was instrumental in terms of us commissioning an independent review into the life and death of Clive Treacey.
We were able to look back across all the settings Clive lived in, and there were about 15 of them, but we focused mostly on the last 10 years of his life. We were also well resourced to do this review, so we were able to call on a lot of expertise, expert pharmacists, cardiologists, so forth.
Otherwise it won't fit on the short bed.
Very quickly I felt that Clive's life rather mirrored the lives of many other people with a learning disability. Clive had been lost in this set of services. You know, his voice and his aspirations in life had been completely lost along the way. And when you reviewed the records, you know, he was a series of labels. He wasn't the Clive that we came to know by talking to his family and building up a picture of who he was as a person. There were 10 findings in the review which reflected multiple system-wide failings. Clive experienced a very poor quality of care during his time in services, and he should not have been detained in services for the last 10 years of his life. He also experienced a number of different health inequalities and very poor support for his epilepsy, particularly in his last placement. And each of these things contributed to his potentially avoidable death. So we made 52 recommendations in the review, and you can read those in detail in the review and on the website. But what we had in Elaine was this wonderful driving force, and she wanted to know that those recommendations were delivered. A way of working emerged that's come to be called Clive's Way, and that really was to respect the positivity he had as a person and to not, I guess, fall into what many families might experience, which is the anger and disappointment and frustration with services about the usually really terrible experiences they've had. And Elaine was very clear. She wanted to continue in that spirit. She wanted to be involved. She wanted to see the recommendations delivered. And also she told us about something Mark, her late husband, said, which was, how are we ever going to change things if we don't let them try? And that's the way that Clive's Way has moved forward, in that spirit of positivity and with those challenges.
When we received the report, we didn't want it to be a report that sat on a shelf and just gathered dust. We wanted it to be something that made a real difference to people with a learning disability and changed clinical practice and improved outcomes for people. Epilepsy was a significant factor in Clive's death, and it's a significant factor that impacts on people with a learning disability. That was where we came up with the Clive Treacey checklist for epilepsy. And where we're seeing that implemented in practice, it's making significant differences for people like Clive who have a learning disability and also epilepsy. We also wanted to look at the over-medication. It was a significant element of the Clive Treacey review. The resources that we've pulled together have created a really excellent toolkit for people to utilise to improve care. And again, systems that are using it are making significant strides in people getting the right care and the right medications to enable them to live their best lives. Through the Clive Treacey report, we saw elements where commissioning was somewhat lacking. We wanted to bring together the expertise and the evidence base about how do you commission really good outcomes for people with a learning disability. We're now having a community of practice with people from both health and social care to really focus on how they can take that evidence and make tangible difference to the way that they commission care for people with a learning disability, which I'm hopeful will improve the outcomes in the longer term. I never had the privilege to meet Clive, but speaking with Elaine and his mum and dad, I got a real sense of the joy and the ambition that he had for his life, which as professionals we never enabled. For me, the one thing that I absolutely hope we can change is putting back that level of ambition and hope for citizens with a learning disability to make a real difference to their lives and the outcomes to enable them to achieve their full potential.